Stan, I just want to update our viewers at home what we're looking at here in Nevada Senate. There's still vote out there, okay? So hang on here. Laxalt's hanging on to about a 2-point lead there in that advantage, but raw vote difference now is just shy of 16,000. We don't know when we'll get the next update out of Reno or even Las Vegas, but we'll keep you updated on that. On the Republican side, Lombardo has a bit of a better margin percentage-wise over Sisolak. There in that race. The governor's race down here in Arizona, that's yet to be decided as well. Kari Lake seems to be hanging in there against Katie Hobbs. I mean, this is really close here, but again, like Nevada, there's a lot of vote out there still, and a lot of that is in Pima County, which is Tucson down here in the south. It's also in Maricopa County in Phoenix, which you find 60% of the voters there in Arizona are from Maricopa County. A little quick Senate what if now. Okay? Just give you a sense about where we think we are and where we might be headed. You're at 49-48 GOP. If Laxalt hangs on in Nevada, thank you. If Nevada stays red or goes red, that would be a flip to 50-48. If Blake Masters is unable to come back in Arizona, that's where you are now heading into December 6th in that runoff here. So down in Georgia, if Herschel Walker wins, the red team's up 1. Okay, but if we flip it around here and give the state of Georgia to Raphael Warnock, we are back exactly, Dana, where we started even prior to Tuesday. So that's the state of play right now, depending on how it goes. So
okay. Well, let's bring in former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, who knows a lot about a lot of things, especially Georgia. And Newt, if you could just give us your sense of one that's going to a runoff and who will prevail. And, you know, Aisha Hosni just had this report from the Libertarian candidate there, Chase Oliver, who nobody even knew his name until Election Day. And they're saying, oh, well, maybe they'll just stay home. Well, maybe they shouldn't have even been on the ballot and avoided all of this in the first place. But up to you.
Well, I think a lot of this is going to come down to Governor Kemp. He won a very decisive victory. He has a big statewide organization. I think that he can be the margin to make sure that Herschel Walker comes from behind to win. You know, Walker was in a number of games in overtime and managed somehow to, I think, win every single overtime he ever played in. So I don't think he's particularly worried, except he's got to go out and go get those extra votes. And I think Georgia, it's kind of ironic that 2 cycles in a row, it comes down to runoffs in Georgia for who's going to control the Senate. And I think that that will make this a very, very intensely competitive race.
Speaker, you've been in this slot before, right? I mean, Kevin McCarthy, you know, he may succeed to be the next Speaker of the House. We'll see. But I just want to take you back to yesterday, about an hour press conference with the president, kind of rare, I would say. Here is what he said about working with the other side.
Regardless of what the final tally in these elections show, and there's still some counting going on, I'm prepared to work with my Republican colleagues. The American people have made clear, I think, that they expect Republicans to be prepared to work with me as well.
Yeah, I mean, you listen to that, sounds ecumenical, I would say. How'd you strike that?
Well, first of all, I just wrote a newsletter at Gingrich 360 today about Speaker McCarthy, and I want to make the point that what really matters is transferring the gavel. The shift of power in the House from Pelosi to McCarthy will be decisive, and people need to understand that. And she's governed with a 4-vote margin, and she's passed trillions of dollars in spending and radical bills. So I think if people overestimate the impact. If Kevin ends up, as I think he will, at 226 or 228, remember, we were at 230. But it was such a shock to have the Republicans take over in '94. Bill Clinton was the opposite of Joe Biden. If you go back and listen to Clinton's press conference the next day, he said, you know, we're going to have to change. We're going to have to work with the Republicans. Nothing Biden said yesterday indicates he wants to work with the Republicans. He threatens to veto everything. He says he's not going to change any policies. Well, I think Republicans have to really look at why we didn't do better. I mean, I certainly, as you know, was on this show. I was very optimistic about a red tide. But the fact is, when you look at the exit polling, 75% of the country says the United States is on the wrong path. Now, what is Biden going to do to work with the congressional Republicans, House and Senate, to get America back on the right path? Or does he ignore that 75% and set up a really consequential 2024 presidential race? I think the jury's out right now, and people are going to watch to see exactly how the city of Washington responds to signals sent from America.
Is there any doubt in your mind that Joe Biden does run for re-election?
No, I mean, I think as a historian, you always have to say there's you don't know. At his age, there could be a health problem. But I think the results of this election make it very unlikely that anyone can force him to not run. So if his health holds up, why would you give up Marine One, Air Force One, the White House, the most powerful political job on the planet? Why would you voluntarily walk off if you feel good? He's going to fight for re-election. I don't know that that's an advantage for the Democrats, and it certainly sets up an opportunity for the Republicans to offer a very different vision of the future.
Newt Gingrich, thank you. It's been a real pleasure to get your thoughts out for this entire cycle.
So
and don't go far, because we have more to talk about in the coming weeks. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's right.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.